Good morning, and welcome to the Douglas County Board of Commissioners legislative meeting. Today is Tuesday, September 6, 2022. And again, welcome to the citizens of Douglas County, and also thank you, Board of Commissioners, for joining me this morning. I certainly hope everyone had a fabulous Labor Day weekend. I will again call this meeting to order, and I'll start with roll call. We have District 1 Commissioner Henry Mitchell III here. It's my understanding he should be here momentarily. District 2 and Vice Chairman Kelly Robinson.
Present.
District 3 Commissioner Terenia Carthen.
Present.
District 4 Commissioner Ann Jones-Guyder.
Present.
And Chairman Dr. Ramona Jackson-Jones present. Board of Commissioners, we do have an established quorum this morning. Board of Commissioners, we have our own communications director this morning. Rick Martin will be presenting to us our invocation, and after the invocation, I ask if everyone could still remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. So if everyone could stand and allow Rick Martin to bless this county this morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair.
Good morning.
Vice Chair Robinson, Vice Chair-elect Carthen, Commissioner Guyder, Deputy County Administrator Perry, staff, and citizens. If we may bow our heads. Our Heavenly Father, I thank you, dear Lord, for another day of life. Thank you for another day of service. Please bring into our hearts as citizens to be servants for you, and the same for our elected officials. Please watch over them as they provide services to the government of our community. Please protect all of us. Please protect our first responders as they respond to emergencies of our community and help adjoining counties. I pray for our law enforcement. I pray for peace, civility, and most importantly, Lord, I ask that you provide love and allow us to show love to one another. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, our Director of Communications, Rick Martin, for gracing this wonderful county in prayer this morning. And we appreciate you because this is the day that the Lord has made. I will certainly start our Board of Commissioners with our clerk this morning. Clerk Lisa Watson, do we have any public comment?
No, ma'am, we did not.
Okay. No public comment this morning, Board. We have a presentation this morning, and certainly I have asked my executive assistant to contact Mr. Heath King at Wellstar. He is serving as the interim operations lead, and certainly I had an opportunity to hear him speak at the chamber a couple of weeks ago, but didn't get a chance to get to you and ask you to come to see us today. So we're so proud that you're here, and if you could just certainly just share what's going on in our Wellstar system, and congratulations as the VP, interim operations lead. You have the floor, Mr. King.
Thank you, Dr. Chair Jones. Fellow commissioners, my name is Heath King. I'm the interim vice president of operations for Douglas Hospital. Some of you may have known or remember Craig Owens. Craig Owens was the previous president. He retired at the beginning of July. And I normally am the CFO at Wellstar Cobb Hospital, but was asked to take a look at the interim role here at Douglas, and I've been here for about 7 weeks now, I believe. Really enjoying the Douglasville community and Douglas Hospital and serving in that capacity. A lot of growth in the area. We're looking to expand. Some of you may have seen we're adding an urgent care to the community across the street from the hospital on Presley Mill Road. And we're going to be adding a couple of new Wellstar services there with some new orthopedic physicians in the near future and some new gastroenterology physicians. So adding services to the campus. We're currently renovating our ER at the hospital to allow for better flow to the patients. I've been talking with Stacy Farmer some on how ways we can assist with the community and help reduce what we call wall times. In that capacity, some of y'all are probably very familiar with that.
Absolutely.
So we're actively engaged with her, and we'll be sharing some of the learnings from a rapid improvement we did just last week. So it's a lot of exciting things going on. Happy to be here, happy to serve, and if you ever need anything from me, I'm located right here in the hospital, and happy to help out any way I can.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. King. Board of Commissioners, you have any questions for Mr. King? Vice Chairman Robinson, you have the floor.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here, Mr. King.
Thank you.
Appreciate your presence, and we look forward to your leadership carrying us forward. And I know it's brand new, but I get to share this. How is, from your assessment, the hospital doing so far regarding COVID? The only reason I say it because I recently had it. I had to take the Paxlovid for 5 days, and it was, I survived it, but it was brutal initially. How are our citizens doing from your assessment? How's our capacity going on? And that's just, I mean, again, it seems like it's still out there. It's still out there, but how are we doing actually within the hospital? That's all I wanted to ask.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Robinson. So from a hospital, from the inpatient standpoint, seeing relatively low volumes. We'll see maybe 12 to 15 patients a day in the actual inpatient setting for the COVID-19. On the outpatient setting, we still remain as a high positivity rate in the county, but that's really outpatient, so the level of severity of illness is not as high as it was historically early on, and in the pandemic, we still consider it more endemic stage of the pandemic, so still remains relatively outpatient. Most patients will be able to be treated in that setting. If patients present to the ER, we obviously treat them, but a lot of those patients are ambulatory and they're able to leave in an outpatient setting. So I'm positive, right? I have an optimistic outlook about the future of the pandemic and hope that we remain that way. But our capacity, we're a very busy hospital, aside from pandemic-related activities, but we remain at able to take care of all patients in the community still. So it's not having a severe impact on inpatient operations.
No, thank you. That was sufficient. I just wanted to ask that. Thank you for responding. Madam Chair, I yield, please.
Commissioner Guider?
Yes. Director King, let's elaborate on your immediate care center across the street that you bought, the building that you already, I think you've already bought it, and it was already a medical building, so you didn't have to renovate a whole lot, but is it up and going now?
It is not. So September 26th is the anticipated go-live date. We did renovate some of the building to modernize it in the bottom floor, and then make some changes and additions in the second floor, which will house the two specialties of GI and orthopedics. But we do anticipate by the end of September, the end of this month, being able to open it.
So when it does open, citizens that do not have life-threatening emergency, but maybe they've cut their finger like
Yes,
I
ma'am.
did one time.
Yes.
They can go over there rather than the emergency room.
Absolutely. And yes.
So it's really going to clean out your emergency room at the hospital some. And I know our fire and EMS department, we are just thrilled with it because of the wall time where the EMTs had to wait in line with a patient before they could go back to work out in the field. So this is going to help us, especially with the shortage of personnel ourselves. So I'm excited about it. I heard about it a long time ago.
Absolutely.
I couldn't keep it a secret. So thank you for what y'all are doing to address this critical issue.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
I yield back.
Okay, thank you so much, Commissioner Guider. Any other questions? Commissioner Carthen, you have the floor.
Good morning and welcome.
Thank you.
It's good to have you here. So my question to you is in regards to emergency care. We heard that Atlanta Medical Center in Atlanta may be closing its doors, which would leave us with only one trauma center within, how will you all address that, and will that impact Douglas County, Wellstar at all?
Yes. Good question. We are in the transition phase. A lot of you've seen that in the media, and as the facility starts to wind down closer to November 1, we don't see any large impacts to Douglas County. We've been working on transition plans on where these patients can go. So we have Kennestone Hospital's a level 2 trauma center. A lot of the level 1s and 2s, just because they're a level 1 trauma center, doesn't mean that some of the traumas they get today could not necessarily go to a level 2. So we're working with other county partners in Fulton County on where these patients can go. Wellstar Douglas Hospital could see some transfers, out of the area. We are certainly right here on I-20, but I don't anticipate a large number of transfers coming from Fulton County to Douglas County, and it should not impede our ability to transfer patients that initially arrive at Douglas for treatment that maybe need a higher level of care than we would provide. I don't see it impacting us.
That's good to know, because our economic development and a lot of that rides on those types of services.
Absolutely.
So I thank you for that, and I am excited. I saw the signs because my district, I live on right off Preston on Chapel Hill, so I'm excited to see that the urgent care center is over there, and that you're putting orthopedic surgeons over there, especially since my foot is bandaged up and I just had surgery from an orthopedic surgeon. Okay. So it's exciting to have that type of service here in Douglas County for the citizens. So thank you for all you do, and I look forward to see what's coming next.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Mitchell, you're okay? All right, thank you so much, Mr. King, and for your services as Vice President of Operations.
Thank you.
At Wellstar. It's a wonderful facility. My background is healthcare, and certainly it's a little unnerving to hear that AMC is closing, because that puts us at a disadvantage, because we only have Grady. It scares me. I know Eggleston is a Trauma 1 facility for children, because that's my place of last employment prior to being elected. So I love the new children's center that just opened, pediatric center. Will there be any, what have you seen in terms of pediatric, in terms of trauma facilities? We still using Eggleston, or what are you utilizing?
Yes, so we still transfer patients that need inpatient care. Primarily, they would go to Eggleston, Scottish Rite, and we do see a number of patients that come to our ER and may need transfer to an inpatient setting. But the good thing about it is we're able to provide that stabilizing care, get them on the right track, and then get them to where they need to go. But the pediatric ER has seen 60, sometimes close to 70 patients a day.
Wow.
In that operation. So it's been a very beneficial service to this community.
And last but not least, if you could just weigh in on the maternal services, the neonatal center that opened NICU a couple of years ago. How's that performing? Are we noticing our high-risk mothers being able to obtain services here in Douglas?
Yes, it's going well. It's the average census. It can take 4 babies. They can get up to 5 in the nursery area, but there's 4 private rooms, and service is going very well.
Oh, good.
We're staffed in the unit, and it's beautiful. It's a very nice women's unit and extension of that program.
Yes, I was there to cut the ribbon about 3 years ago, I believe. All right, well, if there are no further questions from the Board of Commissioners, we again thank you for taking the time to come speak with us and the citizens of this county. Absolutely. Thank you, and I wish you best of luck in your new position.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Jones and fellow commissioners.
Okay. All right, Board of Commissioners, certainly we're going to move on to the approval of our minutes. Before you, you have the commission meeting minutes of August 16th, 2022, the work session minutes of August 15, 2022, and the special called minutes of August 16, 2022, and August 25, 2022, and then the executive session minutes of August 15, 2022. Is there a need for additions, deletions, or corrections at this time?
No, ma'am.
Being none, the minutes will stand approved. Board of Commissioners, tab number 5, is we have a proclamation. The proclamation is proclaiming the month of September 2022 as Drug-Free Pain Management Month in Douglas County. This proclamation will be read by Dr. Leslie Walker. Dr. Leslie Walker is a chiropractor here in Douglas County. Thank you, Dr. Walker, for being here.
Oh, thank you. Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
I'm here. Some of you know me as Dr. Walker from my business, Lithium Springs Family Chiropractic, but today I'm here on behalf of the Georgia Chiropractic Association, a board member, and I'm here to read the proclamation on behalf of the Douglas County Board of Commissioners Drug-Free Pain Management Awareness Month, September 2022. Whereas prescription opioid use and abuse leading to addiction and catastrophic outcomes remains a national crisis, and whereas the leading cause of injury death in the United States is drug overdose, and a majority of the deaths from drug overdose deaths involved an opioid. And whereas from 1999 to 2020, more than 263,000 Americans have lost their lives to overdoses involving prescription opioids. And whereas overdose deaths involving prescription opioids nearly increased by 5 times from 1999 to 2020, and whereas we are losing 187 people a day from opioid overdoses, and 68,630 people died from opioid overdoses in the U.S. in 2020. That's 74.8% of all drug overdose deaths. And whereas the total economic burden of prescription opioid misuse alone in the U.S. is estimated around $78.5 billion a year, including the cost of health care, lost productivity, addiction treatment, and criminal justice involvement. And whereas prescription opioids are often recommended for low back, neck, and musculoskeletal pain management, and whereas over 100 million suffer from chronic pain, and an estimated 80% of all Americans will experience some form of back pain during their lifetime. And whereas doctors of chiropractic, DCs, are educated and trained to effectively address spinal and neuromuscular pain, musculoskeletal pain with non-surgical, not drug management, and whereas numerous published studies, including the Lancet March 2018 document, Spinal Manipulation as Effective for the Management of Low Back Pain, and whereas the Bulletin of the World Health Organization published recommendations to manage low back pain initially and non-pharmaceutical interventions, such as spinal manipulation, chiropractic adjustments, while avoiding opioids, spinal injections, and surgery. Therefore, be it proclaimed that the Douglas County Board of Commissioners hereby proclaims September 2022 as Drug-Free Pain Management Awareness Month in the Douglas County, to raise public awareness that chiropractic care is a primary first-line non-pharmacologic approach to safely and effectively relieve acute, subacute, and chronic pain. So proclaim this 6th day of September 2022.
Thank you so much, Dr. Walker.
Thank you.
Certainly, this proclamation addresses the need for drug-free pain management, and thank you for bringing this proclamation before the Board of Commissioners.
Thank you.
Board of Commissioners, you've heard the proclamation. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do we
Second.
Have, okay, we have a motion and second in place. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion, Board?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Carthen, Vice Chair-elect.
Dr. Walker, while you have the opportunity, can you explain how effective chiropractic pain management is and how it really does help the whole family from infants all the way up?
Yes, chiropractic is very effective for musculoskeletal pain, and it can benefit the children on up, as you stated, to geriatric. What we do is reduce nerve interference and irritation off the spinal, off your central spinal central nervous system, which therefore will make your body feel better and relieve you of the pains and the symptoms and things that you might be suffering from.
Why is it more beneficial to come to you as a first line of treatment as opposed to going to a doctor who may give you pain medication that could interfere with other parts of the body?
Well, first of all, it's non-evasive. Second of all, you're not injecting a medication into your body where you might have some type of side effect. And secondly, it's the first thing you should do, because if you have a nervous system that's not free of interference and irritation, your body's not going to function optimally.
Thank you for that education.
Okay,
I yield, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Any question?
thank you.
Vice Chair, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dr. Walker, greetings.
Greetings.
All right, so to that point, got an uncle, chronic pain, 60-something years old, weight accident, younger fellow, okay, here we are 40 years later dealing with this. I've heard him talk about nerve block and all types of instances of, a little bit of everything to try to deal with this pain. And I heard you say muscular, skeletal, etc. That's beyond my swim lane. But is there, how do you deal with coverage?
How do I deal with what?
Coverage. This is, in our case, in that case, he couldn't get coverage for how do we provide for chiropractic services? What would you recommend for people to be able to take advantage of that? What insight do you have regarding that?
Well, most insurances cover chiropractic. Medicare also covers chiropractic. So if someone does not have those things, they can pay cash. There's usually cash programs that they can pay into at that particular chiropractic office. But I do recommend chiropractic. Give it a try for 3 weeks, unless, of course, you are suffering from a herniation. Herniations are completely different, and those I do refer out to pain management doctors so that they can intervene because you have a herniated disc at that point. And I don't feel like chiropractic is going to be beneficial in reducing their pain for that. We can help you with bulges, but once it's herniated, you need to go see a pain management doctor.
Thank you for distinguishing the difference. Thank you for responding. Thank you very much. Madam Chair, I yield.
Okay, thank you so much, Vice Chair. Any other questions? Okay. We have a motion and a second on the floor. Board, please prepare to cast your votes. We're going to vote and then. Lisa.
Lisa.
Oh, it's working.
Yeah.
The screens are not working this morning for some reason, are they? Are they not? Okay. Thank you.
Chairman, motion carries 5-0.
Okay, thank you. Board of Commissioners, we have a 5-0 unanimous vote and the motion carries. And to proclaim the month of September 2022 as Drug-Free Pain Management Month. Congratulations, and thank you so much, Dr. Walker. Let's give her a hand. Dr. Walker, certainly we can come down, or do you have, you want us to take a picture with the entire group, or we're going to come down to you? Or?
Another board member here with me.
Yeah, please bring her up. We're going to bring you up so you can take photographs with us. Yeah, bring that up. Come on up. Lisa said nobody has any questions.
What I'm going to do is, ma'am, here for the board. So, no, I was going to invite you. Sounds good. Good. Thank you.
She was like, don't stop. You did fine. She said, I didn't think y'all was hungry. I said, no, we didn't. All right, again, thank you so much, Dr. Walker, for your presentation and rendering the importance of the drug-free pain management. Board of Commissioners, we're moving on to our public hearing. We have two this morning, tab number 6. I'll start with to consider the amendment to Section 10-19, Standards for Water Mains and Fire Hydrants of the Douglas County Code of Ordinance. We have with us, Mr. Phil Schaefer this morning to present. Mr. Schaefer, you have the floor.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, we have a properly advertised request for amending the Section 1019 for standards for minimum size water mains and spacing of fire hydrants for all new construction. I will read the new subsection, which is subsection E, and it applies to all of the above A through A, B, C, D. We're adding E. In all of the above requirements in Section 10-19, in the event any deviation or deviations are to be made, such requests shall be submitted and approved in writing by the fire chief and/or his designee. So what we're asking is flexibility. I know when we talked about it, it was specific to types of pipes, but when Commissioner Mitchell suggested that we think ahead, I just wanted to point out for everyone that this applies to all of the sections that are dealing with this, not just the pipe size, but also some of the other provisions, A through D. So all of those have some amount of flexibility built in, being governed, of course, by the fire marshal's safety standards and what he feels would be appropriate at that time and what would be warranted under certain circumstances. And that's my presentation for that one, if you have any other questions.
Okay, any questions before I open? Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Schaefer. Board of Commissioners, I will certainly move to opening this public hearing. This public hearing is now open. Do we have anyone here to speak on behalf of considering the amendment to become the standards of water mains and fire hydrants here in Douglas County as part of Douglas County Code of Ordinance? We have anyone here to speak against the amendment of Section 1019, which is the standards for water mains and fire hydrants of the Douglas County Code of Ordinance? Okay, thank you. We have with us this morning Ms. Batchel. Ms. Batchel, good morning. If you could just provide us with your address as you state your name for the clerk's record, and then you may proceed.
Okay, Sharon Bachtel, 6331 South Skyline Drive. The last part of the letter from the WSA that was posted on the agenda has me concerned. It reads, WSA still requires DIP on all water lines on the public side, which includes all piping within the fire meter vault. After the meter vault, we don't specify material requirements. We too have received requests from developers to allow alternate materials for public water lines due to material shortages, but to date we are holding our requirements for DIP. So are they holding the requirement for DIP because of the ordinance or because DIP is the best material to use? Who pays if the pipes leak or bust? Is it the builders, the homeowners, or the taxpayers? If the plastic pipes do not last, will the commissioners be telling us that you have to raise our taxes for fire hydrant repairs? Will the WSA be raising their rates because of repairs? If this will be decided case by case, I think it should be the Planning and Zoning Committee making the decisions. This would involve the commissioners who hold our tax dollars if repairs are needed. Since WSA makes the repairs, they should also be involved case by case. If you do decide to pass this change to the ordinance, I would like to see a time limit in place to reevaluate in a year. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Batchel, for your comment. Anyone else here to speak against? All righty then. With that being said, this public hearing is now closed. Board of Commissioners, certainly do we have a motion to consider an amendment to Section 1019, Standards of Water Mains and Fire Hydrants of the Douglas County Code of Ordinances? Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion, Board?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Guider, you have the floor.
Yes, Mr. Schaefer, would you address Mrs. Bachtel's concerns?
So the concerns that she's expressing have to do with the private versus the public side. And as the fire marshal had said previously, the projects that would use plastic, those would be on the private side, not the public side. They still, as my understanding, the fire marshal was still going to hold the line on all of the public water mains, not being plastic, but remaining DIP.
Is there more pressure on the public side rather than the private side?
Typically, there would be additional pressure on the public side. That's why we all have water meters that stretch down the actual pressure going into a site.
The pipe that we're suggesting that we go to, has it been tested in any other part of the nation?
Well, the plastic pipe that might get used is in fact rated for much higher pressures than we produce. So
What about the joints?
the joints too. So all of that is in the fire marshal's hands to say yes or no as to whether it meets his specifications. And of course, his first view is going to be what's the safest. So I can't address how he would view it, but I'm certain that he would be using his own safety standards that are going to be whatever they are as far as exceeding the normal requirements for plastic pipe. But plastic pipe does not have the reputation that it used to. And you have very, very heavy-duty plastic pipe being used in all kinds of applications these days.
And it is buried.
It's
How far
buried.
is it
It's
buried?
normal. It's whatever the normal burying is
A
for.
foot?
Yeah, could be 12, could be 36 inches. It just depends on the application. Most of the pipes that we use for this particular application are 3 feet down, 4 feet down, and then you have the risers coming up to the hydrants.
Well, when I think of plastic, I know this is a heavy-duty type plastic. I think of freezing and cracking.
Right, right.
So this has been tested against that, I guess.
I would assume it has to have been tested against it. I don't know that for a fact, but I'm relying on the fire marshal to make that decision.
Has any other county in the state of Georgia adopted this?
I can't say. I don't know.
And this recommendation is coming from
The fire marshal.
the fire marshal,
Yep.
who is an expert in this field, I guess.
I would assume he has his safety standards, and he has seen whatever data he's seen that would suggest this is something he might allow on the private side of water lines.
And I can see the concern that if something happens and it goes wrong, and we've got all this pipe in there that is not holding up to the reputation that, or holding up to the specifications that we are assuming, that the cost will go to the homeowner.
Presumably, whoever owns the property that the pipe is in would have to be repairing the pipe.
Even though it's a decision by this board.
Well,
And
it's a
if it proved
Right.
not to be.
Right, if it were to break, yeah. But we would have that same responsibility for any pipe that failed, even the current
Well,
DIP
I mean,
pipe
on a
that
mass
Right.
number, in a large number of homes.
Well, I
And
think-
this, right now, is new construction.
Yeah, as I recall, the fire marshal was pretty clear. He didn't expect there to be very many of these. This is an interim step for him to be able to say, in those situations where we can't get the pipe.
But it's cheaper than
I understand, but-
the normal.
Yeah,
So once we start it, you know how that goes. They're going to go with the cheapest.
I think
You
I
don't
heard the
think?
fire marshal say something to the contrary. He said quite clearly that he was not going to be using this in very many instances. It's just meant for an interim period.
As long as he's there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you just have to look at all aspects of it. I would hate to say that we approved something and it went bad. It was a bad decision because of unknown factors that we might not know. And then everybody with a new house is having to replace their pipe at their cost, so.
Well, currently, most of the feeds into homes are plastic. This is a water main that he's talking about being able to have, not the actual pipes feeding off of the meters into the homes. My home is plastic pipe going into the house. Comes off of a meter that has the DIP, but from the meter to my house, it's all plastic.
What
Heavy
about
duty.
inside the house?
Inside, I have plastic inside the house as well.
You don't have copper at all?
I have no copper.
Well, I do, and I had a copper leak.
Yeah. I've had
In my
copper before too.
basement.
Yeah, we could have that conversation too. Copper works for a
I
while.
had some water damage
Yeah.
last week.
We had
so-
copper bust when the freeze hit too.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, well, my concern is just for the
Sure.
homeowner, because we're here to protect them,
oh, yeah.
so.
I understand.
All right, with that, I yield.
Okay. Thank you so much, Commissioner Guider. Vice Chairman Robinson, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you, Phil, for bringing this forth on behalf of Planning and Zoning. Where is the fire marshal or where is the chief?
Oh, and I did get your fire hydrant number. It's 7223, 7,223.
I'm sorry, what
hydrants.
now?
You had asked last time we
How
met
many?
if I could provide the number of
You
fire hydrants.
provided it last time.
Yeah. That was Allison, we looked it up real quick on GIS, but the WSA said specifically, it's 7,223.
7,203 fire hydrants.
Yep.
That this would be applying to? No. That
No.
was just a random number.
As-
Got it. Is the fire, well, again, back to my question though. Is the fire chief or the fire marshal here?
I don't see them.
Okay, but if they should be here for something like this when we're changing code, especially to the point that Madam Guy just brought up. And I appreciate you defending them, and you're very good in how you did that, but you couldn't speak to certain parts that, but where are they? We're changing code. This is for everybody. If you're gonna bring something like legislation for a major code and you're a sponsor of it, you need to be here for us to ask questions. Because now we have to make a decision without the subject matter expert being in the room. We just can't take your word for it. We can, but look how y'all put the board. Right? Do we care? Y'all know this was going forth. Is there a real impact to the citizens' point? But okay, I got it. You guys hear my heart, and I'm gonna let y'all work that out. You know, I'm just a legislator. All right, that being said, why are we doing this though? Why?
Specifically, the comment was made that there is a supply chain issue with DIP, and that there are some instances where the fire marshal could allow on the private side after meters a private-public meeting, and then on the private side it would be plastic. And it would be the heavy gauge, high-pressure plastic used on the water mains going into the private fire hydrants or the private water services.
All right, so this is new construction. This is the discretion of the fire marshal to allow this. So this is allowed. So
Correct.
this is an enhancement to our code, not to weaken our code, but in essence, it just gives flexibility. Is that true or false?
That's true.
All right, that's what I'm saying. The clarity was missing because the public hearing, I know we've talked about it and we all live this, but for the citizens, like, what are they talking about and why are they doing this? And so I had to, thank you, Bill. You always catch those softball lobs. Thank you. My last and final question is, to your point about not could we do it, but again, supply chain. We're trying to solve something that really has nothing to do with us. It's like let corporate America get it together, get their supply chain together. I'm still back to why should I do this? Why should I allow this? I get builders. I get it. I get it, but why am I trying to solve something that I need flexibility to, well, hopefully it will right-size itself over time. Supply and demand will straighten out. When you put policy and put legislation in place, you got to be careful what you're trying to solve. You're trying to solve a marketplace problem with like, well, wait a minute now. That's a logistics issue. That's their commerce. That's their capital. They got to line that up. That's their trade. That's trade policy. Y'all figure out who you're going to get. You're going to get China. You're going to get whoever you're going to get. Like, okay, what that got to do with me locally that you can't get your timber, your aluminum, whatever you need. I hear y'all. I get the impact on citizens. I mean, again, downside citizens, we've had hardy plank decisions where 50, 60 years ago, we put that in place, but realized the next generation, we changed it. So there are things we will put in place that will impact our citizens, and yes, they will have to bear the burden. And that's why we're asking the questions that we're asking. I mean, this is one of those like, okay, it's like cute, but I'm not quite certain it solves. I just don't, I'm still back to why are we doing this? It's great that we thought about it. Nobody's here to defend it. I'm not settled on this one. So, Madam Chair, I've asked my questions, and they can't be answered sufficiently for me, so I'm going to yield for now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Vice Chair. Any other questions forward?
We table it.
And if you would, just for 1 second, Commissioner Carthen, is it any way, Communications Director, if we could get the fire chief online so you can bring him and magnify his voice as the questions come forward from a virtual perspective? Okay, thank you. Commissioner Carthen, you have the floor.
Thank you. Mr. Schaefer, so you said that this would become E of the fire code, of the code?
Correct.
Okay. E is not on our, I read it, so I know what you were going to.
Right.
But just for the record, it is not on our.
So when you look at the current code and you get to D, it's actually C and D is together.
Okay.
And so what I had done was I rearranged it so it was sequential A through D.
Okay.
And pulled D out of C, because it's a run-on sentence when you look at
Okay.
the actual text of the code.
All right, thank you for clarifying that. And again, this is not to weaken, but it is to allow for where we are in this day and age. And is that correct?
Correct,
Okay.
yes.
And without the fire chief being here now, as we're about to make this decision, that's no fault of your own, to your understanding, when you all spoke with him, this is a case-by-case scenario. This is not a blanket policy that he would
Correct.
put forth.
Yeah, he seemed very hesitant to apply it in many cases at all, is how he put it. So this
Gotcha.
would be very limited.
Got you. Okay. I yield. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Carthen. Certainly, this would be another tool in the toolbox in the event as a backup plan. Just lightly used, is that what you're saying, implying? Okay. Any questions?
Yes, I
Commissioner
just
Mitchell,
got
you have the floor.
just one question. And we've had conversations about it. I get it. I kind of anticipated these types of questions. So this is not alarming. You may not be able to answer this, though, but on the savings of the piping on the public side, do you think, or would you think that the builder would apply that savings based on that piping at the time versus the other piping? I mean, will it be a pass-through? Which I know you don't know. I mean, I don't truly expect an answer from you, though, but if by chance that happened and the fire chief decides to say, or the fire marshal, I'm sorry, decides to say, go forward with that in this particular subdivision or at this particular point of reference.
I don't know right now that there is a huge cost difference between the high-grade plastic which is guaranteed for high-pressure situations versus the DIP.
Oh, got it.
They're both very expensive right now. It's just the DIP is very difficult to get a hold of.
Got
And
you.
they have lead times out there that are astronomical in the 8 to 12 month range for some projects by
Understood.
virtue of this. But I can't say when you ask directly if they would pass. I don't know.
And I know that.
Yeah.
I didn't expect an answer, though. But going to that, though, so speaking of the quality of both, and we had this conversation before, just if you'll just restate the quality side of both as to kind of what would we get. I mean, because I don't think, based on our conversation, that there's not a huge difference in what I call quality, because they both are performing a great performance. They both passed the performance test.
They both passed the performance test, or I can't imagine that the fire marshal would even ask you for this
Right.
degree of discretion if he didn't feel like this was a safety issue was still being covered properly.
Right. Right, right. So I don't see it. I'm just trying to make sure that the general public understands this too. And this is a supply and demand problem, not because of the mere fact of they're unable to, meaning the builder is unable to kind of get the product that he or she needs to kind of move the subdivisions and anything else along is where the problem is.
That was my understanding, yes.
Right. And the hardest part about it all is how do we allow him as a policy setter, as we set policy, to allow him to have the flexibility, I get it, to just make that call, and that call is just happen whenever, it's a case-by-case basis. That's what I'm assuming.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. And at what point is it yes or no, and kind of who benefits?
So in our process, it would be a yes or no at the DRC level, as we review all development projects, whether they're multifamily, commercial, residential. His team is involved in that evaluation. So a subdivision comes to us, they get the plat, they review it, they look at the materials, they look at the sizes, they make sure that the arithmetic adds up the way they need it to.
Understood.
And sometimes it adds up and sometimes it doesn't. You have to modify and edit. But that's where our stamp of approval comes, at the DRC level. So when you all delegated us the review process, that's where we review for safety, or we review for, I guess, compatibility or compliance is what it amounts to with the code.
Right. And then at that point, the fire marshal, once it passes P&Z, then you guys.
Stamp and approve.
Understood. Okay. I hear my colleagues, and I think the concern is why these guys are not here. I didn't think that there would be a need for them, but as I see our director of programming is kind of walking to the podium to, I guess, identify that we do have the fire chief and the fire marshal, I guess.
Sure. Your Director of Communications has reached the fire chief. He'll be here in approximately 2 minutes, he said.
Okay, so I guess I'll yield, and then I guess the Q&A could probably come back, Madam Chair, if you're so willing to move this item down or give him some time, or however you want to do that. So I'll kind of,
Okay, thank you.
I'll leave it there. So I'll yield, yes.
Okay. Okay, so it appears we have some comments coming from our Managing Director, James Worthington, to help us out as well, until the fire chief gets here. Thank you.
I was going to say, I may be able to shed a little light on this if it's at the pleasure of the board, so.
Yes, proceed.
First off, the material is the C900. It's not a new product at all. It's been out since the 1950s. Ductile iron pipe seems to be the common standard around here, but in coastal areas and places with acidic soils, the C900 is the standard. They don't use iron pipe because it's corrosive and it'll actually just kind of rust from the outside in, so they only use the plastic. So the plastic is well-known, well-tested, good lifespan, 50-plus years. I think, and I don't have the paperwork with me, but I think they say it's 50 to 70 years, and ductile iron is 70 to 80 years, perhaps. I can't remember. Ductile iron does have a slightly longer life, but still, you're still talking about half a century of lifespan, so it's a pretty good lifespan regardless. As far as problems becoming citizen concerns, at this time, we're looking at only doing this on private side. So, and the primary driving factor is the availability of the ductile iron right now is just not available. But on the private side, as long as ductile iron is still required in the right-of-ways, this would not become an issue for any homeowner, because homeowners, their mains will be in the right-of-way. So that will still remain ductile iron. This would be after the vault, going from the vault to most likely warehouses, things like that, where they have long runs of water mains. If there's a failure on a fire line, it'll be fixed almost immediately because it is a huge loss on their end. And it'll be, it's metered water, so they're paying for every gallon that comes out, and you lose a lot real quick. So you don't really have to worry about it being just left alone for a while. Like, I'd say within 24 hours it'll be repaired because it can be thousands of dollars of water. And, you know, they still get charged for that. But again, that would be on the private side, typically on corporations only. Because, like I said, if it's in a subdivision, the right-of-way is public property, that would still remain ductile iron. So this wouldn't really be an issue for homeowners. The only time it could be an issue for homeowners is if we were doing some sort of a condos or something like that. And I don't know if it would come up right now. So I don't know if that helped at all, but.
Thank you so much.
Could I
Manager
ask
Direction. Yeah.
James a question?
Sure.
James, is it being used here in Georgia?
Yeah, in Georgia, yes.
Besides the coast?
I don't know. So this is really a WSA thing, so I don't really know what the other municipalities are requiring. But WSA is not really opposed to the product. They've just kind of said, hey, this is our thing. We've used ductile iron forever. They actually had talked about looking into doing a pilot program to try this because they're having problems as well. They've verified that it's 8 to 10 months to get ductile iron pipe right now. So they're ordering, a year in advance and trying to keep their yard stocked. But even they have said that it's getting harder and harder to keep the stock. Just it's getting further and further out. So they may be pushed to
I
try
can
it
understand using it around the coast because of
Sure.
the salt water,
Right.
because salt will rust metal. But I just wondered if it was used in any of the 159 counties away from the
And I don't know that answer.
coastal
Sorry.
area. Does the fire
Thank you,
chief?
Thank you. Fire Chief, if you could come up. Good morning, Fire Chief.
Good morning.
The board
Board
had
of
a few
Commissioners.
questions for you, so now you're in the room. So thank you so
Citizens.
much.
At this level, there's no excuse for not being here on time. I've been working on some mission-critical stuff, but still, this is very important. I've been paying attention to it. There were some questions asked about the use of this ductile iron piping, and all it is the reason why we're using it as an option is to continue the growth of the citizen, mainly the contractors. They're at a standstill on getting parts and materials for the ductile iron, and then the piping that we're talking about is just as strong as the ductile iron, but it's just an option. And it's not the business as usual. It'll just be there as an option, and we just want to get in the code. And to speak to other communities, from our research, most communities don't have the stringent ductile iron piping that we're doing, which is fine. We checked around the metro, and they don't have it in their code to be more specific on what we're doing. So it's not an issue in terms of safety. The material is good. It's just the fact that that's something like Mr. Worthington said, that WSA chose that route. Like I said, this is for private, and we don't anticipate any problems at all. It's just an option. It's not the routine. It'll just be there in case we need to use something to get to keep things going.
Okay. Vice Chair Robinson, you have a question for
Yes,
Fire
yes.
Chief?
Thank you, Chief, for, and I get we're all busy, and, sometimes you have to, delegate people into here, but this was important.
Yes.
And again, as we continue to mature as legislators and put things forth, it's not just being reactionary, it's being able to discern what I'm listening to. And I've heard 3 or 4 voices just now, and it's like, okay, wait a minute. You just said that it wasn't really a safety issue. Well, I just heard you say that this is basically an economic development. We're just trying to move. So I'm looking at, okay, who's the self-interest in this? Not you, but I'm like, okay, why is the fire chief driving economic development? Okay, that's the sticking point. And so we're trying to move this forward for developers. So you think that the developers would be here advocating for their interests. Because y'all are carrying something like, okay, but why are you here? Because if I lay into this, like, okay, now why am I doing this? They're not here to advocate for their interests, and I'm big on that. Like, no, y'all are not pawns and puppets for them. Advocate, step up. And again, this is like, but why are we doing this? Why are we putting code in place for something that's temporal just so we can, what are we really solving? Is for a greater good, or is it just for a small group? I'm just not feeling this right now. I haven't heard the compelling argument why, other than, okay, we want to give power for discretion, but it's like, okay, but we may barely use it. We don't know if we use it. Then why are we here? I need something that's going to be long-term, that's going to be permanent, that you like, okay, we really need to have this hammer. This like, oh, okay. If it's not a safety issue, which you're about preserving, protecting, and with your other public safety, then why are we talking about economic development? What is driving this legislation? But again, there's nobody here to advocate for. I'm listening to the citizen. I get it. I mean, we're trying to figure this out, but I'm just not certain on this one, Madam Chair. So, I mean, thank you, Chief. You came clean and answered the question. Not that there was anything other than that. I just heard what I needed to hear. I still haven't heard a compelling argument yet of why we should make this code go forth. So I yield, Madam Chair. Why we should give this power to these guys.
All right, thank you so much, Vice Chair. And I believe the central point is related, and this is for you, Chief. The central point is around the water mains and the fire hydrants, right?
Yes.
Specifically. But I know it will spur economic development and also will help the builders. But is this specific focus related to those two things, water mains and hydrants?
Yes.
That's it, right? Okay. I just want to make sure I have some clarity. Okay. Any other questions for Fire Chief?
Madam Chair, is
Commissioner
it
Gay?
possible that we could table this to our next meeting? There's no urgency, I don't think.
That's right.
But I would like to, did you say that you, that the other counties use this countywide? Is that what you said?
The other counties, that's not specific on their piping that they're using for particular fire hydrants. We
But
check-
did they use this specific product?
I can find out what they're using.
That's,
I'll let you know.
I would like to know,
Yeah, I'll find out what they're using.
long-term, how long have they been doing it, using this product, and how it has held up?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm just not satisfied yet because, you know, back in the day, developers said, let's bury the dead trees and things on the property, and that was fine. It looked pretty until the trees started rotting and we started getting sinkholes. So sometimes if you're a developer, you're looking at your side of it, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
And so we can't just let them drive it. We're here to protect the people.
Yes, ma'am. One thing we did do was get with the engineers at the WSA, and they gave us the assurance that, you know, this was not going to be an issue, but we will get more information and bring it forward.
Maybe they should be at the next meeting if we end up tabling it.
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to hear some expert. I don't like to just let one person have the discretion.
Yes, ma'am. I'll take the
I don't-
helm.
I don't
I'll take
like
the helm
that.
on this, and we
That
get
person
what you
can
need.
leave. The one that's there now might say one thing, but the next person that follows him might say, have at it, you know?
Yes,
And so it may be a bigger problem. So I would like to hear some expert.
I'll take the helm on this and get that done for you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. With that, I yield back.
Okay.
But
Thank
I
you.
do suggest that we table it.
I heard you. Thank you so much, Chief.
Thank you.
For coming in. Board of Commissioners, certainly it's your pleasure. We could move to a motion to table. So
Yes.
certainly you can,
Yes, ma'am. I'd like to move that we table this to our next BOC meeting.
is that a motion to table, Commissioner?
Yes.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Board, we have a motion and a second. Please indicate your response when I call you District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3.
She forgot what.
She's in a new
district
district. District 4.
Yes.
Chairman, yes, we have a 5-0 unanimous vote to table, and the motion carries at this time. And certainly, we'll ask that Fire Chief and the WSA, Water and Sewer Authority, and Phil Schaefer, if y'all could just keep hammering out why this should go for this ordinance. All right, we're going to move on to tab numbers.
Madam Chair, real quick. And also, James, Development Service, any engineer or contractors, or developers out there, they need to be in the room. Like, I mean, is this something phantom? I mean, again, y'all put forth, but where are they? Right? I mean, I understand you advocate internally for what you need to get done for safety, but this is an external thing. Like, okay, they need to be, this is a public hearing. The citizens need to see why they're doing this and why this potentially can impact others. So they have a responsibility here. So James, can you make sure that, you know, you invite a couple of them out to come talk to us next time? That's all I need, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Vice Chair. Okay. We have a motion and a second. Oh, we've already called and voted. Thank you. Thank you so much, Ben. We're going to move on to our next tab, which is to consider an amendment to Section 14-82 for parking prohibitions to the Douglas County Code of Ordinances. Mr. Schaefer, you have the floor again.
Madam Chair, we have a properly advertised request to amend Section 1482, parking prohibitions, by eliminating the existing Section A and replacing it with the following language, which I'll read into the record. A, for non-emergency situations, no automobiles for over 24 hours, and no school buses, vehicles over 6 wheels, commercial vehicles, trailers, and other non-motorized vehicle accessories for any length of time are allowed to be parked within the public right-of-way, period, while no automobile should be parked in any roadway and/or right-of-way located within Douglas County for a period exceeding 24 hours, at the discretion of the Director of Development Services or his/her designee, if an automobile is required to park in a roadway and/or right-of-way within Douglas County, it shall not cause an unsafe condition for vehicles in the travel lane, period. Local deliveries are exempt from this requirement as long as the delivery vehicle is actively engaged in loading or unloading of goods for the adjoining property address, period. That would be the new Section A. We've asked that we add a new Section C, which as follows: no automobile may be parked within a Douglas County park and ride lot for a period exceeding 48 hours, period. And those are the two additions that we would be seeking at the request of our code enforcement officers for clarification to how the prohibition on parking works.
Thank you so much, Mr. Schaefer. Board Commissioners, do you have any questions before I open the public hearing? If there are no questions, I will proceed to opening the public hearing. This public hearing is now open. Do we have anyone here to consider, anyone here to speak in favor of considering an amendment to Section 14-82, parking prohibitions to the Douglas County Code of Ordinances? Anyone here to speak in favor or on behalf? Okay, certainly if there's no one here to speak on behalf, anyone here to speak against this ordinance, which is an amendment to consider an amendment to Section 14-82, parking prohibitions to the Douglas County Code of Ordinances? Being none, this public hearing is now closed. Board of Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Schaefer?
Sure.
Vice Chairman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a topic that has been discussed in times past. I'm going to speak strictly from a District 2 perspective because this is relevant to that area. No invalidation or marginalization of other areas that may not have this as an issue. But think my citizens, think Riverside, think my commercial residents, my residential residents, think various areas along Thornton, side streets, et cetera, where we have parking. There's parking that along the side, the right-of-way that deals with is after hours, and I'm just parking on the side street. And then there's parking along the right-of-way that deals with delivery. And so I'm going to stay there with delivery. Phil, let's bring up the topic of think Riverside, think, you got 10 tractor-trailer trucks, double stacked, and it's a 2-lane Riverside. And they zooming down the hill or zooming up the hill as we do on Riverside. And, you turn into these, very beautifully high, 1 million square feet facilities, and they got their gates. And they're queuing up, backing up onto the street, right? And citizens complain about having to go around and, well, gosh, you got to coexist with the elephant. If you're a gazelle, it can't just be solely residential. You got to coexist. So help us understand this issue right here. How do we deal with, what is that issue there, and how are we dealing with it here?
So I think in terms of the modification, if we have some discretion at the hands of the Director of Development Services or our code enforcement officer to view the situation and say, it appears that this is going to relieve itself at some point in time, he has the ability to say there's not an unsafe condition created by the trucks necessarily, and perhaps allow the trucks to queue and empty the queue in a timely fashion. If the queue is going to stay for quite a long time, I believe our code enforcement officer would suggest that we do something else with those trucks, rather than leave them on the side of the road, tearing up the sides of our roads, or in fact blocking the bike path along Riverside.
Right, you speak of queuing, which is, again, I'm there to deliver. I've got property rights just like the next guy. Think about what you just said. I'm queuing, I'm there for business. I done rode in across this country, I'm really delivering pipes and stuff, whatever I'm doing, and you telling me what, you're going to do what to me? Right, I mean, okay, well, why did you allow that to be built there then? So we're going to enforce something, we're going to impose enforcement on something that we allowed to begin with. When we ask questions about trucking, when we do those truck studies, we allowed it. Now we're saying, okay, it's inconvenient, therefore we're going to penalize you. You knew what they were doing. You know that whole area is nothing but primarily industrial. One more time, why are we doing this, and have we reached out to all that economic development over there and asked them, hey guys, y'all know this coming?
I've reached out to 3 companies. I've not heard back. Keehee, Palmolive, Gordon Foods.
Just 3.
The perpetrators, who are in fact the most commonly recognized as trucks in front of their facilities on an ongoing basis, that code enforcement regularly goes around and suggests the trucks move on.
Okay, so perpetrators, be careful with the language. These are citizens that like, well, wait a minute, you ain't got nothing to suggest I can do otherwise. Look at, I'm just, listen, they got rights as well. Right, our streets, we've outgrown our infrastructure. You know, they're tearing up. Well, cars tear up too through heat. It's like we're targeting the commercial in this regard, like, guys, but yet you want them to offset your property tax. We want you to do it conveniently and neatly. Just don't be in my way. Just offset mine. And I'm listening to you like, okay, guys, you know they matter as well. They pay property taxes as well. So I'm trying to balance this narrative. And I get you don't want to have people parking on side streets and all those things like that. I got it. Private property, got it. That's one part of this. All I'm talking about is the delivery part, the active delivery of, to your very point, I'm trying to get there, but if I got to be careful, because Douglas County, man, they may tax me. They may, because I'm taking too long. I'm taking too long. But you knew this. And you know that area is there, so I'm like, okay, we're going to impose, how do we allow this to be balanced? Balance is the key to life. And again, when we wield our sword of legislation, it's like, okay, let's make sure it's balanced, that we don't harm as much as we're trying to cure something here. And again, I'm all for it. I mean, I'm the main one like, okay, but it's how we're going about doing this. So what are we proposing then in this case? So, all right, I got that. Phil, what are we proposing with this legislation? Got it.
We're proposing to allow the code enforcement officials to be able to suggest if they see an unsafe condition that trucks move on or circle. I will have a solution for you if I could suggest one minor one that's not this, but we do have a truck parking facility that was approved by you all a couple of years ago. Hasn't opened. Why hasn't it opened? I can tell you financially why it hasn't opened, because the owner would like to have more money and he wants to lease the entire facility to someone else to operate it. So 140 truck parking spaces are going wanting on Maxim Road because they haven't opened. You have privilege here. You have a 2-year requirement that any zoning we grant must in fact be vested. So I would suggest we bring that person back before the board and rezone it back into residential, or he opened the truck parking facility. There are a number of truck parking proposals that come to us every single week. They're on property that is completely inappropriate, and I'm trying to fix that way. But for this particular one, Commissioner Robinson, I don't have an easy, can we just get along sort of sentence I can put it in. I wish I could. I don't have that precise, I know what you're after, I just don't know how to get there from here so that we accommodate them parking tractor trailers 9, 10 in a row along Riverside, which is actually in the city, because Keehee's in the city. We have one organization that's actually your district that's in the county that regularly parks trucks on Rock House. and it's a problem. I don't know the answer. This was what we were trying to come up with, so you have a little discretion and a little bit of code enforcement ability to judge safety-wise anyway.
Understood. And this is good dialogue, and I appreciate your answer. And again, how do we coexist? And I get it, and it's the discretion of code enforcement. So it's only that moment in time. So again, one more time, is it such that, okay, show up, just move along, or do we actually have to change the code to that? I mean, he has the power just by default, move along. By putting this code in place, what is it? Again, the other part of the code is obviously on private property and down the streets and side streets. Got that. So I know we got to address this. But as it relates to this queuing, again, I just don't want to compromise the commercial delivery part, which, again, this is an economic engine for the county. It's important. And so we've allowed this to be birthed. I mean, it was before we all got here, it was already in play. And so it's, again, how do you that we can coexist, that we're not too tight on one. But again, I get the safety, but that should be a discretion with anything. You see something there, it's in that moment, but do we need a policy? Do you just have power by default? Or do we need to change the power for that individual code enforcement? Or is this something that's a policy that we need to be doing? Those are two separate questions. Legislative, we can deal with this area of the code, or are we talking about putting power within, like we did with the marshals for code enforcement one time? So, I don't know. This is a good one, but I'm okay with where we are. Madam Chair, let me yield and let everybody else weigh in if they so choose. I yield, Madam Chair. Thank you, Phil. Good job.
Thank you. Commissioner Gator.
Yes, I'm going to be quick. First of all, this does not affect the on-off ramps on I-20.
No,
Okay, that's under federal law.
that's federal highway.
And I know the truckers they're between a rock and a hard place.
Correct.
The law says they can only drive so many hours, and you got to park it, and there's no place to park it.
Yeah.
So I would suggest that your department also talk with the city and see if y'all can't come up with the same ordinance because of the way the city limits jig-jag. And it would be nice if we were on the same page with the truckers so they don't get confused. Am I in the city? Am I in the unincorporated area or whatever? But, and we might even look at any more new development if they have a lot of bays, that they have facilities to accommodate trucks that's in waiting to unload or load, so.
Which I will take your suggestion as we go back and perhaps amend some of the articles in the development side, the zoning side.
Yes.
To have a slightly different design element in the front of some of these warehouses.
Yeah.
That does allow for parking lanes as well as a deceleration lane.
That would be
Because right now, all we
nice.
have is a 150-foot deceleration lane. It's not enough of a queuing lane. It's really just meant to slow the truck down to
But then
turn.
if you have
More.
a city facility that butts up to the unincorporated area, and you've got two different rules.
Right.
So maybe we could get with the city and say, let's come up with something that we can both live with. So-
Easy enough to ask.
Huh?
Easy enough to ask, absolutely.
All right.
I-
And with that, I yield back.
Okay. Any other questions for Ward?
I'll just add one little thing.
Commissioner Mitchell?
So, Mr. Schaefer, if I'm hearing us correctly, that we're probably better off holding off on this, talking to the city, because that's kind of, we're using Riverside as one of the primary unique situations I see here, correct, or not?
Well, Riverside is, it's under our control as in terms of the intergovernmental agreement, but yes, most of Riverside's in the city on both sides of the road.
Right.
So that's their jurisdiction as to where some of this is occurring.
And the reason I'm asking that is to make sure that whatever teeth we're trying to put in here to move these guys along, and the goal is not just to find and seek that type of a relationship. No. It's to make sure they understand that there's no parking and safety is of concern. And if you leave your truck or park your truck here, there's a problem. Am I correct?
Oh, correct, yes, absolutely.
So I think I get it. But what I don't want to see, though, is that if we've got teeth in our ordinance and then the city across the street has less teeth, just being hypothetical, So would you suggest that we at least have that conversation? Not that what you got is incorrect, but at least we'll all be on the same page of what we're trying to accomplish, the goal in hand.
Having written some of the city code myself already, and spent a year changing that code in its entirety, I would suggest this for us, and then let us go to the city with what you've adopted.
And see what they'll adopt, but we're.
And see if they will adopt because the teeth need to be here for us. And whether the city approves it or not, it's been my experience that we work well together on all kinds of things, so I wouldn't doubt that we could at least present the option to them, and maybe they would be able to. But I would suggest the teeth be with us.
Got it. Okay. I yield. Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Schaefer.
All right. Thank you so much. Board of Commissioners did I call a motion yet? Yeah. Okay, we have a motion and second on the floor. If there's no more, I thought
We
I
didn't
did.
take a motion.
I sure didn't. Okay, thank you. My memory, I know I've got a pretty good memory. Board of Commissioners, do we have a motion to consider amendment to Section 14-82, parking prohibitions to the Douglas County Code of Ordinances?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion, Board? If there's no further discussion, please prepare to cast your votes.
Chairman, motion carries 5-0.
Board of Commissioners, we have a 5-0 unanimous vote and the motion carried. We're going to move on to tab number 8, which is a resolution approving the issuance of the revenue bonds in regard to the Tephra, which is Tax Equity and Fiscal Responsibility Act approval for the Astoria at Crystal Lake requested by the Housing Authority of Douglas County. Board of Commissioners, do we have a motion to approve this resolution?
Madam Chair.
We
Okay.
haven't read it
Is there
yet.
anybody here that can speak on it?
Yeah,
before
we do.
Oh.
Attorney
Yes.
Fowler's here to speak on it.
Yeah,
There.
let them speak.
Yeah. Help us get there.
Morning,
Good
everyone.
morning.
Good morning.
Attorney.
Thank you for hearing us. This is a project of the Benoit Group. It's currently referred to as Astoria Senior Housing Project at Crystal Lake. It is a 165-unit multifamily housing project for seniors on just under 10 acres, and it lies to the west of Golden United Methodist Church downtown, or just north of downtown. It's to be, as was mentioned at our work session, a 100% set aside for lower-income senior tenants. The request is for Tephra approval of $23 million tax-exempt multifamily housing bonds. They're revenue bonds. They'll be paid solely from the revenues from the project, have no impact on the county or its finances or any individuals. That's the project. And it'll be ample parking for anybody who wants to come and drive there. That's it.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank you.
Chair.
Any questions for Attorney?
Just one,
Fowler?
Madam Chair.
Okay. Vice Chairman Robinson, you have the floor.
Good morning, Attorney Fowler. How are you?
Fine. Good to see you.
All right, real quick question again. I heard, how many units one more time?
165,
165.
Yes, sir.
And you said 100% set aside?
100%.
What'd you just
yes,
say?
sir. Pardon me?
I just didn't hear it.
Yeah, 100% set aside for seniors, which is 60% of the median household income in the area.
Got it. And this is truly senior housing, not age, marketing age 55, all that. It's not that type of-
Let me just say,
It's gotta
Shani
have an
Locken,
age.
who's the bond lawyer
Yeah,
on the
please,
project,
let him-
is here, and
Yes.
she can answer some of those
Just
details. I
describe some of
believe.
this for the public, just so what it is, what type of project, put a little more color into it.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, tell us a little bit more about this project. Specifically, we talked about the set-aside, and we talked about age, who are we targeting? I need a little bit more clarity versus just the structure of the deal. What is the project?
So, as Joe mentioned, the The facility is expected to have 165 units of 1- and 2-bedroom apartments, and they will be for seniors. And so under the HUD and Tephra rules, or under the HUD and IRS rules, seniors would be 55 or older. And under the IRS tax-exempt bond requirements, they have to choose either 20% of the units are rented out to residents at 50% or less of the average median income, or 40% of the units are rented out to residents at 60% or less of the average median income. They can choose under the low-income housing tax credits to do more than that, and that's what they're choosing to do. So they're choosing to set aside 100% of the units at 60%, to residents at 60% or less of the average median income.
All right, thank you, very
Does
good.
that- are there more
You did
questions?
good. Sometimes we just asking questions for the
Okay,
record.
of course.
Last question did, so what, not to box you because that's not what this is, but if you can frame based on the average median income, what would be the price point range for something like this?
I don't know the exact price point. Of course,
Okay.
the units are restricted based on income restrictions as opposed to specific market rates.
Yep.
So the units have to be rented at those income restrictions, which are based on HUD guidance, and those are adjusted every year. But once the units are rented out initially, they have to continually comply with that income restriction throughout the life of the bonds.
While they're there. So, all right, I get it. You could, I wasn't trying to box you and represent that part, but it's just $700. I mean, again, what's important for Douglas County is that we recognize our senior need. The baby boomers are aging, and we need multiple products, right, with different price points, interest, sizes, et cetera. So just trying to get clarity on which one this is coming online. And so when I hear 100%, I hear 1, 2 bedrooms. I get it. I just was trying to, like, again, where I live on Riverside, it's $1,800 a month. Market rate is $2,000. I'm 55. Well, I'm 56 now, but again, I'm an anomaly. But for the seniors that are out there that are looking for a housing and a nicer place to stay and something that's quality, I mean, what are we saying? $700, $1,000? Because it's expensive out here.
Sure, and I can't speak to the exact dollar range.
I understand.
But the whole design of the tax exemption and the low-income housing tax credit is to make the economics of the project such that the rentals are at a lower market rate. So
I get it, and I love this, and I know what we're doing in
It's
Tephra.
targeted to bring the rental rates down. You know, the program targets bringing them down around 20% of market.
That's good. I mean, again, the 20% set aside, the 40% out of 6, I got it. Y'all doing 100%. Well done. Y'all really targeting. I mean, it's like, woo, all 100%? Wow. I mean, I was really giving you a PSA there, like, wow, 100%?
Yes,
Okay.
100% of the units will be set aside.
All right. Well done, Joe. Madam Chair, I yield. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Discussion? Yes. Commissioner Carthen.
So how long will these bonds be issued for? Is there a time frame? 10 years, 20 years, 30 years?
So the bonds themselves can't be out longer than 30 years. That's state law. But the income restrictions are in place for the longer of 15 years or the length of the time that the bonds are outstanding. And quite often what happens in these deals is that even though the bonds are issued initially for 20 to 30 years, typically they end up being paid off early or redeemed. So they don't tend to stay out that long.
Okay. And my second question is, there was a hearing held for the public in regards to this. When did that take place?
Yes, and that was the 29th. Joe, Attorney Fowler was
So last
the
week
hearing
it
officer.
took place.
Yes.
I know you were waiting for it before we did this.
That's
and
right.
Was there any opposition to this or?
No.
No, ma'am, no opposition.
No opposition. And it was held where and at what time?
Do you want to speak to the hearing?
It was advertised in the Douglas County Sentinel for a week. It was held at the offices of Hartley, Rowan, Fowler, and no one attended.
And at what time was it
8
held?
a.m.
8 a.m.?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And there was proper notice given, you said, the Douglas
Yes,
County
yes, ma'am.
Sentinel? Thank you. All right, I yield. No further questions.
Any other questions? Okay, if there are no further questions.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Commissioner
Just,
Mitchell?
just one, just a couple of questions. Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong, you said 55 and older, correct?
Yes,
Is kind of, that's the starting age for
for seniors.
the seniors?
Yes.
Okay, because I'm
Yes, I'm getting scarily close to that.
Yeah, I'm getting close, but I'm not, no cigars. But my question, though, is, so, the income restriction that you spoke of, for those individuals that are 55 and older that live in these units, will that annual income restriction approval and applying, will that happen every year annually to?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
The borrower or the property owner needs to certify annually to those income restrictions, and that all of the units are, in fact, rented to residents meeting that income restriction. And I should point out that this doesn't tend to happen as much with seniors, but the income, even if the income increases, nobody's going to get kicked out. The income could go up as much as 140% of that income restriction level before the unit itself is considered no longer meeting the income restriction. And again, under the requirements, they're still considered in compliance with the restriction as long as the next available unit that comes open for rental is then rented to somebody who is within
So the
income
next available
restrictions.
unit could be a 3-bedroom versus a 1-bedroom that they're in because their income went drastically up because they hit the lotto. I mean,
Well, it's not that that person moves, it's just that if another unit in the building opens up, then it would have to be rented to somebody at the income restriction. So the point is that the restrictions, that annual compliance doesn't mean that somebody can't earn more money the next year. They're not going to get kicked out simply
but most of these
because-
guys are going to be on
because they've
fixed
earned out.
incomes.
That's right. That's
kind of
right.
the
For a
hopes.
senior facility, that
Right.
doesn't tend to be an issue.
Got you. Okay. That's interesting because I just know that's where it gets a little tricky because there's a couple of homes income restrictions that I'm used to seeing. And Joe, you know about these that are there, that what happens, these guys happen to get a part-time job and creates another situation. And now they're subject to be evicted based on the mere fact of their income because of, the fixed income based on Social Security, I guess, was good when it was at that point and the rent was set at that point. But when they move up to a different bracket, it takes them all out of whack because they decided to get a part-time job and being a greeter at Walmart. And now here we are having some issues with the numbers doesn't correlate. But I'm hearing you're saying that they're not going to be evicted, or that's just the right thing to say.
No,
Or-
that is the case. There are safeguards in place,
Okay.
and so even if their income is rising, there's that buffer room. They would have to rise over 140%
Okay.
of the average annual, of the average AMI, the AMI restriction level for that unit before the unit is considered no longer at the income restriction level.
Right.
And even then, there is what is called the next available unit rule, and so it's not that they have to be kicked out. It's that the property owner, in order to still be able to do the annual certification, would need to rent the next available unit. And if all of the units are already rented out, then there's nothing that they need to do, and they can still make their annual certification. But if another unit were to be vacated, if somebody moved out and that unit became open and available for rent, they wouldn't be able to.
Are you speaking
rent
from a
that.
larger unit or something? I'm a little confused.
It doesn't matter if it's a larger unit or not, that
Okay.
whatever the next unit is that's available, if somebody else's unit opens up, then the property owner, instead of having to kick the one person out because they've gone over the income restriction, they simply are required to make sure that the next unit is rented within the income restrictions. And then for the
Oh,
building
got you.
overall,
Okay,
they can
okay.
still make their
Okay.
annual certification.
So the overall numbers, I get it
That's
now.
right.
Okay, I got you. And last but not least, okay, so what happens in this instance, because it happens, and Joe probably can vouch for this, you find that, this senior and you're living in your quarters, but he or she, are there any requirements that allow or don't allow them to have their grandkids or kids or anything of that caliber? What is that situation like? Or they can, long as they rent the unit, that's their unit. However, if anybody else stay along with them, grandkids, kids of the kids, that's okay or not okay? What's that restriction like?
I believe for senior units that the unit needs to be rented to somebody who's qualifying.
So they qualify,
for that age.
but they
That's
got
right.
3 other grandkids coming
right.
along with them, though.
I honestly, I don't know the answer to that. I think, certainly if the grandkids were simply staying with them, it wouldn't necessarily disqualify them. But I think if they were part of the residence, or I think if they were permanent, I guess is what I'm trying to say, is that wouldn't be considered residence.
So they would still be a part of that rental unit or that rental situation that they qualified under that.
But I believe that when you're looking at the residential, their income restrictions is based on all of the residents in the unit.
So not that I'm not trying to welcome kids to a senior living, but I'm just trying to understand, so at least the general public can understand, which I think this is great, what you guys are doing. It's just that how do we include or not include when we talking about, Granny going to want to keep the kids along with, because Susan did some unique things and now we got the grandkids.
No, I don't think that the facility is designed to cover every possible living situation. It really is targeted towards seniors.
But I'm trying to throw you a curveball to see how you're going to handle that curveball when it comes, because it's coming.
Guy, I'm sorry, I'm not sure that I have an answer for that question, but I can certainly, follow up on how that is typically handled.
Joe, I don't know, help me.
It's a problem with the Housing Authority from time to time. This is restricted to 1 and 2 bedroom units.
Mm-hmm.
I believe as long as they qualify, they can have additional persons in the unit.
Okay.
They cannot exceed the income, so you may have a grandparent and 2 grandkids. I don't believe that violates the rules. I can check and report back to you.
If you would, because I've just seen it happen and always become a nightmare.
We've had it
Yes.
before with the Housing Authority, and I can
Right.
check into that and let you know.
And that way we can kind of clearly understand this is kind of how these units will move forward. This is what this property will consist of, not the problem come after the fact. And now here we are, I'm telling you, Granny with her 2 grandkids, they're coming.
Yes, sir. That's 1 and 2 bedrooms only.
I get it. They can sleep on the couch. It's okay. So they're coming. All right, I yield back, Madam Chair. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioner Mitchell. Vice Chair Robinson?
Yeah, this is a real quick question as a follow-up. And I get this is not about regulating the day-to-day or making it compliant with HUD per se. This is a financing, a resolution to move that forward. Will this be a box building? Is it garden style? What I hadn't heard is, is this just, look, we're going to rack and stack? Or is this a more modern design in providing housing for seniors? I'm just curious, what is this the traditional, or is this more of a progressive? That's it. Can you answer that?
So the Benoit Group has built many of these facilities throughout the state, and they tend to be 3 or 4 story buildings.
Okay.
With some facilities and garden space, community facilities like a fitness center and common areas as well.
Common area, a common area, we can come down there and have a little luncheon.
So it's not just one single, it's not just an apartment building. There are common facilities and amenities as well.
I'll make it easy for you. So it's not going to be some 5, 6 story, and we're racking and stacking seniors. It does have some type of lifestyle, some type of, you're just not trying to make money on a HUD federal program, right? We really do care about the design, right? Okay, so what are you doing here? I'm fine. I get it, there is a need for housing. I'm just always curious is, doing business in Douglas, like, okay, but what product are y'all offering? And I get it's 100% subsidy, but it shouldn't be, you should just be happy because you got 100%, we're meeting you where you are. I need to know what type of, I'm curious, I don't need, I'm curious as to what type of design is going into this building. Can you answer that? I mean, as far as structure is concerned, I mean, again, is it a little pool area? Is there a gazebo? I mean, I'm hearing the 1 to 2 bedrooms and 3 to 4 stories. Got it. That's up, over, down. Plenty of parking. Got it. They come in, they got an elevator, I trust, or that I'm sure they're not walking up those steps. Got it. What else is there? Is it a laundromat? Is it self-contained? What am I listening to? But if you can't answer that, that's fine. But for the citizens that were, and why are we, you know, again, what are we allowing? Madam Goddard said sometimes we got to be careful what we let in. Talk to me.
No, I understand, and before the meeting, we did provide a link to the Benoit Group's overview, and it gave some information about other projects that they have done, and I believe that there were pictures in that overview of some of the other projects, and so all of their housing facilities tend to be consistent in the look and the design, so that's probably better than me just sitting here telling you that yes, these are nice buildings. I have been to some of their other projects, and they are nice buildings and open center areas. And I certainly understand nobody wants to put their grandparents in a facility.
Let me help you in this case. I'm blind, so therefore you're gonna have to meet me where I'm at as a citizen, and so I can't look at no pictures. You got right now to describe this to me, like anybody else that may be 55 years old, who are visually challenged. They see things in grays. And so can I get a little courtesy and can I get somebody to just tell me what I'm listening for?
Well, the facility that I visited recently, which was relatively new, it was, I believe, 4 stories. There were multiple buildings that were all connected. It's all on one property, right? It's all connected. There was a center courtyard. They had a common dining facility available. I believe that they had a fitness center. Certainly there was parking for the building. This is not just a high-rise, stacked up, type of building, but it really was very pretty. Fresh colors, modern designs. Yes.
That's good. You did good. You have to be responsive. So, whose commission district is this going in?
District 1.
District 1. Got it. I yield, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you.
We sent a link over the other day. I sent it to Lisa. You may have forwarded it. It answered the question of what percentage, but it had a link to the apartments that they've done elsewhere.
I've seen. Yeah. Thank you.
We're good.
Thank you for the presentation. All right, Board of Commissioners, I'll try it again. Resolution and tab number 8, resolution approving the issuance of revenue bonds in regard to the Tephra, which is Tax Equity and Fiscal Responsibility Act. Approval for Astoria at Crystal Lake requested by the Housing Authority of Douglas County. Do we have a motion, Board? Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? We have a motion and a second. Please prepare to cast your votes.
Chairman, motion carries 5-0.
Okay, we have a 5-0 unanimous vote, and the motion carries. Thank you so much, and thank you all. Look forward to this wonderful project coming forward to Douglas County. Thank you. All right, Board of Commissioners, we're going to move to our consent agenda and want you to be mindful that all items are subject to final legal review. Our clerk, Watson, will read the consent agenda for me today, simply because we have another meeting tonight, trying to reserve the voice. So you have the floor, Clerk Watson.
Thank you, Chairman. Deputy County Clerk Sherry Mathis will be reading.
Okay.
Thank you, Chairman. Number 9, authorize the chairman to execute the BJA Bureau of Justice Assistance Grant funded employee contract for Sydney Edwards as Juvenile Programs Mental Health Case Manager, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents subject to final legal review. Number 10, approval of third and fourth quarter ARPA Fund Technology Project in the amount of $70,000 as recommended by the Technology Committee. Number 11, approval of a 20-foot wide utility easement for Georgia Power to install an underground distribution line through the grounds of the county's EMS and Fire Headquarters facility to serve the city's green space and amphitheater project, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents subject to final legal review. Number 12, approval of a quitclaim deed to vacate a 10-foot wide strip of segment of a 60-foot wide right-of-way previously dedicated to the county by DCT Douglasville LLC to affect the amended condition of zoning previously approved by the board, reducing the county's right-of-way to 50 feet, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents subject to final legal review. Number 13, approval of task order number 1 in the amount of $1,454,878.18 to Atkins North America, Inc. for the design and construction, engineering, and inspection of the Spine Road and new signalized intersection at Fairburn Road to serve the Trails and Movie Studio project in the Fairburn Road Tax Allocation District, which is TAD, to be funded from the general fund, which is to be reimbursed from future TAD proceeds, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents subject to final legal review. Number 14, approval of contract with Corbett Group LLC in the amount of $2,123,427 for construction of the Stuart Mill and Reynolds Intersection Improvement Project to be funded from the 2016 SPLOST funds currently allocated to the project, with an additional allocation of $640,000 in 2016 SPLOST funds from the funds currently allocated to Lee Road Phase 2 widening project, and $149,315.04 in remaining 2002 SPLOST transportation funds, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents subject to final legal review. Number 15, approval of task order number 2 in the amount of $13,150 to Nova Engineering and Environmental LLC for field and material testing on the Stuart Mill and Reynold Intersection Improvement Project to be funded from the 2016 SPLOST funds currently allocated to the project, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents subject to final legal review. Number 16, approval of change order number 3 in the amount of $882 on the contract with CMES, Inc. for construction of the Lee Road Phase 2 widening project to be funded from 2016 SPLOST funds currently allocated to the project, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents subject to final legal review. Number 17, approval of amendment number 1 in the amount of $39,530 on the contract with Hughes Ray Firm for landscape architectural services at the I-20 Lee Road interchange for additional landscaping improvements to be funded from the tree fund, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents subject to final legal review. Number 18, approval of a form of escrow agreement to be used in connection with the sale of property to the city of Douglasville. Number 19, approval of an intergovernmental agreement with the city of Douglasville, city of Villarica, and city of Astoria for 2023 SPLOST.
All right. Thank you so much, Deputy Clerk Sherry Mathis. Thank you. Board of Commissioners, that concludes our consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Board of Commissioners, any questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Vice Chairman Robinson.
Yeah, I'll be very quick. Again, appreciate all the work I saw or have heard regarding Lee Road and the Spine Road project. Well done. Keep things going, guys. We are making progress on major projects that we've committed to, and so that's important. Number 10, Madam Chair, just for acknowledgement regarding ARPA. At our next Finance Committee meeting, there's the expectation that the administration will present a recalibration of both the SPLOST 2016 as well as the ARPA. Where do we stand, reconciling how much money we burned so far, what's outstanding, and perhaps a revisitation of the list. A recommendation was supposed to be coming forth on some of the things that we assumed may no longer be relevant on the ARPA, and what is the baseline cutoff for the SPLOST. So that'll be at our next Finance Committee. Is Madam AC out there? Madam AC.
Assistant County Administrator Tiffany Stewart Stanley.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Board
Can you
of
just quick status on what your intent to be at our next meeting, please?
Sure, thank you, Vice Chairman. So as discussions with our grant management team, as well as members of the Board of Commissioners and my Deputy County Administrator, we would like to just take a look, revisit these, not only the SPOS, but also the ARPA funding, just to make sure that the allocations that were made back in November of 2021 are still relevant, and to look at everything and make sure that we're following the guidelines of ARPA, and to make some recommendations to the board for those items that may not be relevant at this time after the final Treasury guidance and things have come down from the federal government, just to make sure that we're in compliance and that we're making the best use of the funds.
And so I'll let that be. And what about SPLOST?
Yes, we are working as well, so we'll have those recommendations to the Finance Committee on the meeting. I believe it's September the 18th, I'm sorry, is the day of the meeting. We'll have those recommendations for the board.
Thank you for that. Stay there, because I'm going to go to my next one. You probably can feel this. This is more of a, this is dealing with the juvenile.
Okay.
And last week, Judge Harrison and Judge Nurse came before us during our work session, and they made reference to an equity study that I think all 5 of the Board of Commissioners could have gotten regarding disparity within the juvenile side of judgeship. And it was actually, it was 28 slides, PowerPoint, and about 18-page summary analysis. And it was very good. And so out of 142,000, I want to say citizens, or 46 citizens, we've got, what, about 105,000 adults. This is about 37,000 kids. Stay with me. 18,000 are black, 10,000 are white, 5 are Hispanic. Quick math, right? And they showed that there is a true disparity, especially when it came to African-American males in Douglas County as far as sentencing, whether it's misdemeanors or felonies. How quick the African-American male is sent into the felony side of the court system in the Superior Court than others. And like, you got to read this study about the reality of Douglas County, right? And so they did a pretty good job in performing this, and they put forth this. And I'm glad to see the work that was done, but to actually be transparent about the inconsistency sometimes that happens in the county. All right, so I want to make that point. Read that study. Go look at it. Make it available. We'll make sure it's made available. My second point is I'd like to see the same thing on the Superior Court and the State Court. I want to see the same study. Now, it's my understanding that I believe the DA had did some coming in like that with her interns and did analysis. And so if she's already done it, perhaps I got that. But it's more about the sentencing I'm after. The judges, not the prosecution. I want to see what the final results were. I want a consistency across the board. So one of the things I will bring up during this budget cycle, like, okay, about KPIs and performance, like, no, I want to know where I'm appropriate. I need to see something, right? It's about to get real. And so there's no more carte blanche that says, okay, guys, it's being varied. Are we treating everybody equally? What's going on here? Is there fairness? Fairness is not always about an economic decision. Fairness is about treatment of others. And we only know that by having the facts. So Madam may say, can you make sure that Madam CFO puts that on my tab, even if I have to advocate for this, to ensure that we get that study for both the Superior Court and the State Court to be consistent with the juvenile as relates to this disparity study. That's all I ask.
Thank you.
It's not a condition of this vote, guys. It's just what I asked to put on my tab this fall. Thank you. Madam Chair, I yield the floor.
Okay, thank you. Any other remarks, board? Yes. Okay, Commissioner Carthen.
This question is for Attorney Coleman. in regards to the SPOS intergovernmental agreement.
Yes, ma'am.
Just wanted to be sure that we had cleared up with the cities in regards to the fire bucket. That we
Yes, ma'am.
opened.
I was going to report before you voted
Thank
that
you.
we did reach agreement. We got the final sign-off this morning, and you should have the, we'll send you the revised language, but we do have this section 7G put back in, which provides for the payment of the capital obligations for fire and EMS from SPOS proceeds. The language is slightly revised from the original language, but in substance, I think it accomplishes the same purpose. And so it is back in, and we've had final sign-off on the language this morning, and so we do have an agreement.
Thank you. With that, Madam Chair, I yield.
Okay, thank you so much, Commissioner Carthen. Any other remarks, board? If not, we have a motion and a second on the floor, board. We have a motion and a second. Please prepare to cast your electronic votes.
Chairman, motion carries 5-0.
Okay, Board of Commissioners, we have a 5-0 unanimous vote and the motion carry. All right, Board of Commissioners, do you have any announcements this morning that you would like to lead off with before I bring the Communications Director up for announcements?
Well,
Commissioner Gay?
it's on this list, but.
It's quite a bit, okay. Well, did you want to
Yeah,
highlight your
I
specific?
will, but I was waiting to see if District 1 had wanted to announce his first.
Okay.
I was just going to let the communications director to just take over mine. I was just, since he does a great job at it, I just thought I'll just kind of yield to him, but, go right ahead.
Save your
Okay.
voices for this.
Okay, I'll go ahead.
Okay, Commissioner Guy.
I will be having 2 town hall meetings. My district is so large. I go all the way to Paulding County, all the way to Carroll County, and even Fulton County. So I have the counties in my district, so I have to have 2. So people don't have to travel so far. And sometimes the community room at Dog River cannot accommodate my crowd. So I will be having one this Thursday at Dog River Library at the community room at 6 p.m. And then the following Thursday, I will be having one at Clinton Park at the new pavilion at the trailhead at 6 p.m. That way, somebody's going to have the opportunity to come to one of my town halls. I will be covering basically the same thing at both town halls, but this is for you to ask me questions and get information that you need. So please come out, and we always have a good time at the town halls. Also, my church, Ephesus Baptist Church, has their pantry tomorrow. It's Wednesday, yeah, at 4 p.m. It's a drive-through pantry at Ephesus Baptist Church on Ephesus Church Road. Thank you.
Okay.
And I yield back.
All right, thank you so much, Commissioner Guider. Communications Director Rick Martin, please come forth.
Yes, Madam Chair. Seems like I need some water again. Sorry. Good morning, Madam Chair again, Board of Commissioners, Deputy County Administrator, County Clerk, Attorney Coleman. Remaining announcements that we have, District 1 Commissioner Henry Mitchell III is partnering with Higher Standard Foundation for a free resource and job event fair. That's happening on Wednesday, September 14th, next week, and that's happening from 10 a.m. to 2 at the Douglas County Sheriff's Office. And for those who don't know where the Douglas County Sheriff's Office, that's located at 8470 Earl D. Lee Boulevard. For more information, you can contact Carol Chateau at 404-276-9176. And I want to remind everyone, we'll have this information on CelebrateDouglasCounty.com. And you heard from District 4 Commissioner Ann Jones-Guider over 2 town halls. Lithium Springs Public Library is having a shredding event. We receive a lot of calls to the county government in regards to this. Shredding events happening on Saturday, September 10th, from 10 a.m. until 12 noon at 7100 Turner Drive in Lithia Springs. That's happening from 10 a.m. to 12 noon on Saturday, September 10th. Also want to mention the 20th Annual September Saturdays Festival, presented by Douglas County Government and Georgia's own credit union, will be held Saturday, September 17th. The theme for that day, Heroes Day and a Touch a Truck Experience, and September 24th, Family Fun Day and County Services Showcase is happening on the 24th. It's happening here on the grounds of the Douglas County Courthouse, located at 8700 Hospital Drive. We're still collecting food vendor applications, as well as community members can register to have a booth space. The Office of Constituent Services is conducting a citizen experience survey. They began early this year, and it's continuing throughout September 30th. The public and everyone's invited to visit celebratedouglascounty.com to learn on ways to register and fill out the survey. And we have some additional events announcements. I want to say compliment of our Douglas Senior Services Director, Consuela Gilchrist. She's doing a fabulous job over there connecting with our seniors, and she's very excited to announce the first annual football tailgate party. This is happening September 11th, Sunday, September 11th, from 12 noon to 5 p.m. at the, what I can tell you is, happening at the Woody Fight Senior Center, The Atlanta Falcons will be playing the New Orleans Saints, and they're going to be offering a safe space for seniors to tailgate. You're invited to bring your food, grills, coolers, gear, chairs, and just come cheer your team on.
All right.
Right, so that concludes today's announcements. On behalf of the Communications and Community Relations Department, I yield back to you, Madam Chair. Thank you.
I believe if you flip your page, you have two regarding public health.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, no problem.
Oh, my goodness.
That's my swim lane, don't
You
forget
know,
it.
absolutely, and I'm sorry because I had so much here. We have a lot of announcements, and this is great. Thank you so much for bringing this to my attention, Madam Chair. Yes, the Douglas County Fire Department and the Georgia Department of Public Health have partnered to offer COVID-19 PCR testing at a kiosk located just outside the Douglas County Fire Headquarters, located at 12501 Veterans Memorial Highway in Douglasville. You can just drive up there and take part because it's offering your COVID-19 PCR testing at a kiosk there. And also for another option, free COVID-19 testing is being offered at Deer Lake Park, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. For more information, you can visit douglasvillecovid.com. I yield back to you, Madam Chair. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Director
My
Martin.
pleasure.
Well, Board of Commissioners, if there are no further remarks, I certainly will close by saying that we will be going into recess so we can return for our 6 p.m. Joint Planning and Zoning and BOC meeting, but certainly want to close by saying and reminding our citizens that we are still unfortunately dealing with COVID-19, but with the strain BA4 and BA5. So if you would continue to implement those measures that we've discussed, the 3 Ws, just keep those as your weapon to defend yourself during this virus. With that being said, Board of Commissioners, if there's nothing else to come before us, we are now in recess until 6 p.m. for the joint P&Z and BOC meeting. Thank you.